What kind of choices can ChatGPT help us make? Let's find out. First, let's figure out what kind of questions we need to ask ChatGPT. I think we want to try to make it convince us to do this or that. So let's think of what's something that we want ChatGPT to help us decide between. Maybe an Apple computer or a Microsoft computer. So we want to ask ChatGPT a question like, convince me to buy an Apple. So let's say that. All right. So it's going to come up with this super long response. I don't have time to read all that, but it's valid information, so we'll use it. Now we'll ask the question, that's the this, what's the that? So we'll ask, what is convince me to buy a Microsoft a Windows PC. And then it's going to come up with this other super long response. We could read all this, or we could leverage the power of ChatGPT and say, quantify each response. That way we get, ones and twos. We don't have to have all these qualitative things to evaluate. Now we're asking a computer to quantitatively evaluate things that matter to us. So I don't know. We'll see what happens. So quantify each response and compare them you get a table with numbers and loads of stuff. Wow, that's a lot of information. And again, possibly too much for us to look at and really consider. Looks like our scale is 1 to 5. It's useful. We could ask it to give us a scale of 1 to 10 for more variety. But let's see what the total score is. And I found that it's important to make sure that you are very explicit with ChatGPT about what you're looking for. So I have, what is the total score of each column? I've had it before come up with different numbers or different quantities of values in each column. Like I was asking one question and it gave me 5 numbers added together for the total score on one and 8 for the other. And it's like, well, that's absolutely not correct. So let's see what this does. Sometimes it'll give us a string of addition, and sometimes it won't. So it's just giving us some numbers, 73 for Apple computer and 80 for Windows PC. So according to ChatGPT, you need to be buying Windows PCs. Now we can go back up through all the data and evaluate and see if that's relevant information, if these scores are actually what we're looking for. Now it will also matter what you're using these PCs for. I think it's leveraged a lot toward gaming here, gets high scores and those sorts of things, and then variety of uses. I think Windows wins out on those. And it has this disclaimer here. These total scores reflect an overall assessment of the key factors for each platform, with Windows PCs having a slightly higher total score in this comparison. Keep in mind that these scores are subjective and they can vary depending on individual preference and needs, obviously. But for pure data, Windows PC wins. Go figure. Now, that's a lot of back and forth between me and the ChatGPT. We could replicate this over and over again. I have. Sometimes it'll use a 1 to 5 metric here. Sometimes it'll use a 1 to 10. You can specify sometimes what you want to use. Sometimes it'll come up with low, moderate, high is the scale that it uses. And that's not super useful. So when it returns me low, moderate, high, I always say give a 1 to 10 scale. But what we want to do here is we want to take all these things that we've asked and we want to program our ChatGPT to do all this in one shot without us asking for that information. So we're going to grab a new chat here, and this is how you program ChatGPT. Treat it like a person to some extent. You are my choice-making assistant. Make choices between two, or here, you help me decide between two choices using this coffee break. Did this before. What did I set it up as? Lost it. And we're back. All right, so you can see here we have the prompt that I created, basically following that procedure that we came up with before. And so you talk to it like it's a human. You are a choice-making assistant that helps me decide between two choices. Using this procedure, step 1, create convincing arguments for each choice. So we did that in the last thing, but we had to ask it one at a time. Hopefully this will do it all at the same time. Step 2, quantify each response using a 1 to 10 scale. It's good to specify that so you don't get different scales. It might give you different scales going, each time you use it. Then compare in a table like we had. Step 3, give a total score based on the data from each column in the table. When you're ready, I'll give you 2 choices in the format X or Y, then you'll respond. When you fabricate your prompts like this, you can use them over and over again without having to retype. That's super important that you develop it in a way that you have all the parameters that you want to look for, and you tell it, I'm going to give you an input. I want you to give me an output. You get the outputs. You don't have to retype this thing every time. So you see its response. I'm ready to assist. Let me know when give me the 2 things that I'm going to help you with, then we'll give it a go. So let's ask ChatGPT to help decide between whether we want to buy a book in the hardback version or the paperback version. That should be an easy one. So I've got written here, paperback or hardback. Let's see what we get. So it's going to come up with that long deal, paperback, hardback. So the table is interesting. It's not necessarily in a table, but it is. Okay, it did that completely wrong. It's got different, it gave us different parameters for the comparison. So something went wrong because we're not comparing like things. Portability, affordability, flexibility, durability. That did not work. So let's look back at our prompt and see what we did wrong. Or maybe it's too simple of a request. Let's try a more complicated request and let's see what we get from that. So let's say, actually let's just go back to our original example, the Apple versus the Mac versus the Windows. I wonder if it can figure out, what did I just say, Mac versus Mac or Windows. There's our long response, and it's doing the table weird again. So what's wrong with our table? Compatibility, it's coming up with different stuff. So let's fix this. Create a convincing arguments for each choice. Step 2, quantify each response using a 1 to 10 scale, then compare. Quantify each argument with like parameters using a 1 to 10 scale. Okay, let's see what we get with that. So all this stuff's going to disappear because we're modifying our prompt here. So this is all going to disappear, and let's see what we get now. We want, I've never seen this before. Let's go this way. All right, so let's try it again. Mac or Windows. What do we got? Tables. Nice. But they are not comparing the same stuff. So user-friendly, broad software compatibility. It's not exactly what we're looking for. So what did we say over here? Maybe I'm too complicated here. Quantify each response and compare them in a table. See what we get. All right, Mac or Windows. We get all the, oh, we finally got a good table. All right, I wonder if these add up. 56, they do not. They don't add up. This is the struggle with ChatGPT. So we have data here, but it's not correct. So it should be 56 Windows to 54 Mac. 56 Windows to 54 Mac is what's reality. I wonder why it messed this up. Maybe this is too complicated. Give a total score of each column in the table. Let's try it again. Mac or Windows. All right, all the arguments at that. It shows us our addition this time. We have 6 numbers and 6 numbers in each. There we go. It uses a 1 to 5 scale this time because I took out the 1 to 10 scale. And Windows edges out Mac 21 to 4. Does the math, yeah, the maths because they're showing us the mathing. Hey, I think it might work. Let's try something else. Windows won in both, in our original and in this one. So I guess maybe you should be a Windows person. Let's see, should we buy or should we get a Toyota or a Chevrolet? Should be interesting. So these responses aren't quite as long as if we'd said in a broader deal, convince me, because you remember when we asked it to convince us earlier to buy a Mac or a Windows, the responses were super long to start with. So we've got the math, we've got 6 parameters, six in each, yeah, and 21 to 21. Interesting. Performance and power. Yeah, so they really offset each other. So buy what you like. Let's try one more, and let's make it kind of frivolous. Should we have milk chocolate or dark? Milk chocolate or dark chocolate? Here we go. All right, there's all the information. There's our table, and it seems to like 6 parameters. I kind of like that. You know, it's going to come up with 6 parameters there, but because it's based on this, because it's given 3 each here. Interesting. And dark chocolate wins by 1, so it's kind of iffy. I like dark chocolate way better than milk chocolate. And there's always the disclaimer. It's up to you. It says, here's our empirical data. By the numbers, 1 is clearly better. However, what you like is what you like. So that was kind of a fun exercise, and we got to learn a little bit about what it takes to engineer a reusable prompt with ChatGPT. It was kind of fun. And hey, I like dark chocolate, so go ChatGPT. See you next time.